Well, welcome, Malaika. It's so great to have you. This is for everyone listening and watching. This is Malaika Jabali, filmmaker, writer, lawyer, and activist. You can check out her work in Guardian, Gen Magazine, Current Affairs. Where else? The Intercept, all over the place. She's an incredible, insightful writer. One of my favorite minds out there. And we're really happy to have you here today on our first episode of Left Reckoning.
Thank you. Congrats, guys. How does it feel?
It's pretty
I,
exciting.
yeah, I mean, I can't really separate the different types of excitement that are happening right now.
There's so much going on in the world. This is probably like, any other day,
Yeah.
given what lately.
Yeah, right.
I know.
Exactly.
Well, actually, on that note, I know we have some things we wanted to get to, but I was curious if you have any thoughts on what happened yesterday.
Well, first of all, it was my birthday yesterday, so I was pissed because I wasn't looking at the news at all. Like I was intentionally trying to kind of tune out and enjoy the day. And so I had friends texting me and they're like, happy birthday. I'm sorry you got to deal with this. And I'm like, deal with what? Like if y'all didn't help me, I wouldn't know. So anyway, besides that, I think that this is just a reflection of what America is. I think people use the terms insurrection, and we're hearing about how much this is un-American, and I think this is fundamentally very American. I think it shows precisely the types of politics and ideology that created the country. We've had this sort of reaction, this, I wouldn't even say this is abnormal extremism. I think it's fundamental to how America came to be, on stolen land, on the backs of stolen labor, on the backs of wage slaves and then industrial North. So all of this in terms of, police officers siding with the right-wing extremists and people who want to tear down Congress comes from, it comes from their ancestors. So none of this is surprising to me. I think it's jarring. I think we haven't seen, this kind of massive fight, I think, on the right in DC, like on federal grounds before in our lifetime. So it's jarring for us, but if you know history, this isn't surprising per se.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And one thing that was so frustrating, and I'm glad that you weren't doing what everyone else was doing, just doom scrolling on Twitter yesterday. But it was really frustrating to see also, on CNN or, all the mainstream media, people saying things like, oh, this is just like we're in Bogota or in Kabul. This is like what happened in a foreign country. It's like, no, I'm sorry. There's a dude right now looking like an extra from a Red Dead Redemption, from the video game there in the bison suit, standing up and charging into the into the Capitol building. I mean, this is 100% America. This ain't Putin or anything like that. This is what this country is, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, and the people who are fighting in this believe that they're being very patriotic. I joined Parler a couple of months ago to see what kind of rhetoric is being shared on here. And there are at least 6,000 posts about a civil war and what they're going to do to bring about a civil war. And then if you look at the people who are fighting for this, it's half the country. You have people in the legislature who are in the legislature who are supporting this. So this is not, something that we should be surprised with. We've had warning signs forever.
I also feel like the 1898 Wilmington race coup, basically, that's been getting more. There's a big book on it in 2020. That wasn't the first one I've even seen on that. I feel like we should be at a point where we know this now and we can't really play dumb. But I mean, the purpose of part of the corporate media is to continually be incredulous about all this stuff. So I guess I shouldn't really be surprised.
Yeah, and I would also just add, as we were before you got on, Matt and I were talking about, it's amazing how much cover you get from the media for these protesters, basically trying to make it seem like they're this disenfranchised working class. When we were talking about the guy whose photograph is now famous of him putting up his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desks, he got a PPP loan for like over $100,000, right? He's like a small business owner.
Yeah. I mean, it attracts a lot of those types. There was another woman who people were sharing her, like she went on some angry rant. And an angry white person doesn't automatically make them poor or
Mhm.
working class or struggling. These are just angry people who want to yell into, I mean, I would say they have it's a void, but it's not. They clearly have, a whole state apparatus that's willing to support them. But she went viral as well. And people were like, you don't see her frustration. And then I looked her up, and I think she owns a gun business. Like, these are all small, a lot of these are just regular ass small business owners who are doing better than they were 4 years ago, and they want to maintain power.
Yeah, they flew across the country on those PPP loans.
Yeah, on the government's dime, and then
Right.
were let into the
Got it.
Capitol on the government's dime again by the Capitol Police, right? And they're like, yeah, welfare queens. Well, I want to get to some of this other stuff because I mean, what happened yesterday really threw such a wrench in our plans. I really want to get your take, just really quickly on the Georgia Senate race, because it's going to be interesting, especially for what this next year has in store for us. Not only because of the balance of power in the Senate, but what kind of lessons people are going to try to draw from it. It's really interesting. Like Matt and I were doing segments on Ossoff, saying like, how the hell can we vote for this guy because he's so right wing? Like he's against all the kind of policies that the left wants to see. But meanwhile, he's being attacked. Both him and Warnock were being attacked by the GOP as like these crazy communist radicals who are going to come, and fundamentally change the United States. But despite all of this, they still won. And I'm just curious as to what you think the kind of lessons are for Georgia, for national politics after seeing this.
Well, I think the first lesson is that leave left activists alone, because it really doesn't matter what they say on the ground.
Hmm.
What happens to moderates electorally is up to them and their campaigns. And so the big argument, even though Joe Biden won, despite all this fear mongering around defunding the police and socialism, despite him winning, the next tactic used by a lot of centrist Democrats, people like Claire McCaskill, Spanberger, and Jim Clyburn, and Barack Obama, was that, well, just the mere existence of a left flank that says the word defunding means poof, all of a sudden moderates lose elections. And we're talking about Georgia in the Deep South,
Hmm.
a red state, a swing state, a mostly conservative state, that despite all of that rhetoric, you had these two Democratic candidates who still won. So whatever happens on the ground is up to what those moderate campaigns do. So it's clearly an example of the DNC and Democratic Party establishment trying to find a scapegoat for their failures, as they often do. I was in Georgia around the time of the days leading up to the runoffs. I was there for a little over a week, maybe almost 2 weeks. And I'm from Georgia. And so I was hearing these attack ads like every day, non-stop. I was like, what? I mean, and it was actually kind of inspiring for me, because I was like, oh, Warnock was actually supporting, Palestine. So they kept replaying this ad of him saying, Palestinians lives matter, Palestinian lives matter. I was like, oh, for real? I didn't even know that. Good for him.
Yeah.
And they used AOC in like so many ads. So again, it's about moderates trying to find a scapegoat for their failures. And we need to be even more adamant on, if you consider yourself a radical, a leftist, or whatever, it's up to us to create our own agenda, our own platform to support elected activists that are going to support things that are necessary to systematically change the system, because we know that it's morally just. And no matter how necessary it is within a pandemic, the Democratic Party is not going to support it. So we have to find alternatives outside of the party without getting into these rhetorical battles that are futile, so that we can find people who actually support these causes.